what's up guys? My name is Zach, and this week I've been driving the 2023 Ford Bronco Sport Heritage Edition. Up front is a 2.0 liter turbocharged inline 4, and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be making this video because this is not only my first Ford press vehicle, the first of 3 upcoming, but also I have had mixed feelings about the Ford Bronco Sport, and so I am excited to tell you that this is one of, if not my favorite press car I've ever had the privilege of having for a week. So let's dive into why that might be. But if you would like to share your vehicle with me, you can head on over to my website, zachprado.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out. I come out to you, and a link to that can be found in the description below. But let's get back to that 2.0 liter turbocharged inline 4 under the hood, making 250 horsepower. Well, it's one of 2 engines offered here in the Bronco Sport. You can either get this 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, or you can get a 1.5-liter 3-cylinder turbo, which makes about 181 horsepower. The 4-cylinder is 100% the way to go. I drove the 1.5-liter, and there's nothing outwardly wrong about it, but the power of the 2-liter will actually surprise you. There were several times getting on an on-ramp, passing someone in traffic, that I went, oh, whoa, all right. And that's all thank you to the 2-liter. Now, like I said, paired to that is an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's calm, quiet, and collected. I barely even notice it shifting, which is a fantastic feature, and I just have more faith in it than I would a CVT. Last but not least, about the drivetrain, this is 4-wheel drive, and we'll talk about how to select that a little bit later on. So how does it feel to actually drive the Ford Bronco Sport Heritage Edition? Well, it actually is a very nice driving experience. The first thing that caught me off guard in a good way was the sound. I know I'm talking quite loud, but cruising around, the engine is quiet, the cabin is pretty quiet for the caliber of vehicle it is. This isn't a Rolls Royce, and so this amount of noise is actually very healthy and normal. What I didn't like is the ride quality. It is a little bit stiff, but this is a more off-road oriented SUV. You should know that going into it, and so a harsher ride is to be expected. Visibility is good in this era of SUVs all over the place. It has good visibility. The throttle response, like I said, is great, and I just overall really enjoy driving it, and that'll tie into my final thoughts. Real-world fuel economy over my time with the Ford Bronco Sport, which has been about 353 miles. I've averaged 22.1 miles to the gallon, and yes, I've spent 17 hours in this Ford Bronco Sport, probably more by the time this video is done being edited. However, I did take it back from Chicago. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it was around midnight, I was cruising on the highway, going at my own pace, and I was able to get this reading, which was around 30 miles to the gallon, on the highway with no traffic, going at a more leisurely pace. The other thing to note is that Ford does recommend premium fuel. It is not required, but I put premium fuel in because it's just better for longevity's sake. Yes, you can live a full day on just eating Pillsbury Doughboy cookies, but it's not good. So I want to try to put the best fuel I can into the Ford Bronco Sport. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a mix of physical and digital gauges. Off to the left, I do have my tachometer. Off to the right is my speedometer. Those are physical. But in the center, I do get a customizable screen that you'll see me cycling through a bunch of different things. Some pages here and there that I really like. It's not the craziest thing in the world, but it's also not the worst, and I'm happy that it's here. One little tiny thing that bothers me about this gauge cluster screen is that when you are using adaptive cruise, it shows a full-size Bronco, not the Bronco Sport, just to remind you that you have the light version and not the paid version. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our adaptive cruise control options as well as steering assist, volume up and down and mute, and off to the right, we have our menu selectors for that gauge cluster screen, skip track, and voice commands. The overall steering wheel feels nice. It's this leather. It doesn't have any interesting stitching. I kind of wish that it was maybe had brown stitching to match the seats that we'll talk about for the Heritage Edition, but overall, no major complaints. complaints. Off to the left, I have a climate control vent and my headlight switches / gauge dimmer switches. And moving on to the door, we have 3 different levels of memory seats, lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows down below. Moving into the center, we do get our little infotainment screen, and I do mean little. This is by far one of the smallest ones in this segment. However, it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. They are not wireless. They are wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And it's fine. The system is okay. The standard Ford Sync system, it's the Sync 3 system. It's okay. It does the job, yes. Do I love it? No. But that's okay. However, something I do really like is that you do get cameras front and back. So here is what the reverse camera looks like. And here's what the front camera looks like, which I actually found myself using quite a bit when trying to park the Bronco Sport. Down below, we do have the volume and tune knobs, as well as automatic start stop, on and off button. You have to push every single time that you start the car. It does not save your last setting. Camera button, mute, display off, things like that. Then we do get this little shelf. I do like it. I usually rest my phone or the keys right here, and it has this sort of non-slip surface to it that I really like. And then we come down to the climate controls. We do get dual zone climate and heated seats, along with a heated steering wheel. And the AC has been awesome. The week that I had this Ford Bronco Sport, we've actually been experiencing a heat wave, so it's hit over 100 degrees several times, and the Bronco hasn't sweat by cooling off my sweat, if that makes sense. Then we do have this giant cubby. We do have the USBs in for the infotainment system, as well as a 12-volt outlet, and we get a wireless charger, but I can't really use the wireless charger because my phone is always plugged in for Apple CarPlay. Speaking of which, the USB-C that my phone is usually plugged into is for the media and is not for charging. I drove this vehicle for 2 hours the other day, and my phone went up 5% in 2 hours. So it will trickle charge your phone, but don't expect any numbers to get bigger. Moving down the center console, off to the left is the shifter. It is a rotary dial shifter. It does the job, it's fine. And then we do have our parking brake and brake hold. However, when you turn the vehicle on and off, the brake hold will save. So you hit it once. I hit it once when I got this car last Wednesday, and I haven't had to hit it again because it's still on from there. So that's really nice. I don't understand why they can't do that for the automatic start stop. Then we do have our drive modes, and so we have several GOAT modes. We have normal, eco, sport, slippery, mud/ruts, sand, and rock crawl, all of which have their own little design here in the center, which I love. And they fixed it, unlike in the full-size Bronco, where when you twist the knob to the right, the graphics on the screen move to the right. And when you twist the knob to the left, the graphics on the screen go to the left. This might sound like a very simple thing, but the full-size Bronco that I drove, I've driven 2 of them, don't do this. And it is very confusing and frustrating. So I'm glad that the Bronco Sport does. It's the little things that matter. Speaking of little things, we have cup holders off to the right. So let's go do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Bronco Sport. And unfortunately, yet predictably, it fails. So let's do the music. However, I want it to be noted, the first time I drove a Bronco Sport way back at the end of 2020, I actually just happened to have my water bottle with me. This was before the big friggin' bottle test was a thing. And I tested it in the Bronco Sport and it failed then too. And I was like, oh, maybe this will fail in all cars. So the Bronco Sport was actually the first vehicle to ever be tested by the big friggin' bottle test. Although unofficially and not in the video, the Bronco Sport was the first one. Just for those fans of the big friggin' bottle test, it's now been tested in over 700 vehicles since then. But we do have a little badge to talk about down below. This is the Bronco Sport Heritage, says since 1966, which is a cool little touch. And then we do get a center console with 2 USB-C chargers in there, but that's it. The seats are finished in a brown leather that has a plaid pattern on it. However, it's not cloth pattern, it is still leather. And they are heated, power, and memory. They're very enjoyable, and I actually came to really love these brown seats. Wasn't sure I would, but I ended up really liking it. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats. So let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2023 Ford Bronco Sport Heritage, and a couple of things to note. First of all, spatially, knees are hitting the seat in front of me. This is a little bit further back than what I would normally place my front seat. However, this is still a little bit of a cramped back seat. It's not terrible, and it's actually very, very usable. I was able to fit all my friends in here without any major complaining. So it's very, very usable, and I do want to point out a couple fun features. First of all, on the backs of the seats, you do get these zippable rear seat pockets. Now, these are an option here for the Bronco Sport, but I do like them. They're kind of fun and different and unique. In the center, I do have rear climate vents, which is very overlooked, and I love seeing these in cars. But then I also get 2 USB-C chargers and a wall outlet. Love, love, love seeing that in a vehicle like this, and I actually ended up using it. My girlfriend gets muscle cramps, and so she has like a heating pad. She was actually able to ride in the passenger seat with it plugged in the back, so to help out her cramps while we were going to dinner one night. So very, very useful. I'd never actually used one of the plugs for like a practical purpose. It was very nice to have it that evening. The plaid also carries on back here with the rear seats, which I love to see. I love this plaid design, but it's not the itchy stitched plaid of the 1970s. So love that mix. Another really cool feature is that there's a little handle right here, and you do get a little storage cubby below the rear passenger side seat, and you get a little boot logo and things like that. Now it stops right there, so it doesn't go under the rest of the seats, but pretty cool that Ford included that. Let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the Ford Bronco Sport, and before we even open it up, we have 2 options here that I love. This button will just do the glass. This button will do the door. So we hit this button right here, little pull tab right here, and we can access the bed. Now we will talk about this cargo cover. This is a cargo cover here in a second, but I love the fact that this rear window opens. I realized I just said bed. I meant trunk. I just drove an F-250, seen here. My head's a little swimming with Fords right now, but I love the fact that you can access this just through the window. If any automaker is watching and they're like, how can we get this little chubby Midwestern kid to love our vehicle? Add openable rear glass. I love it every single time. And something kind of funny, you see this little like peg here, and then this hole here, this is actually for the rear wiper, so it sticks in there, and then that whole thing goes. So then you still have an operable rear wiper, and we get this fun little Bronco graphic. But come down here, let's open up the entire door this time. No power tailgate on the Bronco Sport, but that's okay. Moving inside, we do have this very, very sturdy cargo cover, which came in handy when we were getting our remote control cars out the other day. Here's a picture to show that and a video. Really, really helpful because you can actually stack stuff, which a lot of companies don't offer. Off to the right here, we do have some tie downs, which if you'll notice, there's a little lasso on them. 12-volt outlet, which I always look for. Love to see that in cars, but then they push it even further and offer an entire wall outlet in the trunk. We were charging our remote control cars off of this when they were dying. Off to the left over here, we do have a light button, which will turn on these lights that are up in the tailgate. And if you come up here, can actually move them and angle them whichever way works best for you. It's kind of hard to put them there, back in the middle, and we'll turn that right back off. Then we do have a bottle opener over here. Please, please, please do not use this if you plan on operating the vehicle anytime soon. Please do not drink and drive. But if you have a sparkling water, an Izzy soda pop, you can pop it right there. This does pop up, this privacy cover, and underneath here, you'll actually get a scale for reference ruler, which is pretty interesting. But then I'm gonna need help with this one. There are these fold out legs, and I'm not entirely sure why. I guess you can ramp it up like that if you need a little extra height but want to keep it covered, because then when you do close this and you open the glass, even when it's ramped up, you can't, see under there. Maybe that's the reason, but kind of weird to have these like fold out legs. It almost reminds me of like a Honda CR-V table, but I know it's not that. Down here, we do have this rubberized mat. Love that. We get a little Bronco logo there, and we can pick this up, and that is where our spare tire is held. So nothing really crazy beyond that, but tons of really, really cool features that I absolutely love around the back of the Ford Bronco Sport, which really helps its case. Now we got to talk about the looks. And I love the exterior. This is finished in Yellowstone yellow. Although I've been telling people it's sunflower yellow or daisy yellow. I understand why they named it that, but I think daisy sort of fits this color a little bit better. It's a little bit flatter of a yellow, not quite as metallic as other yellows, and so it is pretty flat. Although it does get these white accents, which I love. I love the white grille. I love the white wheels. Love, love, love the white steel wheels, and those are part of the Bronco Sport Heritage package, and I love it. However, I hate the fact that they did red lettering up at the front on the grille. It reminds me of something, but I just can't put my finger on what. Hello. Thank you. I still can't figure out what that grille reminds me of. But with all of that being said and my lunch digesting, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Ford Bronco Sport Heritage for the last 7 days? Well, like I said, I came into this video with very low expectations. A lot of my friends who are into cars often refer to this as a lifted Ford Escape. And I can see the logic there. Let's talk about the things that bother me. The no wireless CarPlay situation is kind of annoying because the charger for the media is so terrible and I don't get to use the wireless charger. That was kind of a headache. And I'll be honest, $47,000 is a lot for a Ford Bronco Sport. However, the average price of a new car here in 2023 is $48,500. But at that point, you're edging on a real Ford Bronco like the gentleman next to me. So, pick your poison there. But now, let's pull over and talk about why this is one of my favorite press cars I've ever had the privilege of driving for a week. I'm not saying the Ford Bronco Sport is perfect like we just mentioned earlier, but I really enjoyed my time with this car more than most other cars I've been given to drive for a week. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, the exterior. I love the white steelies with my entire heart. I love the Yellowstone yellow color. It really sticks out. I saw tons of Ford Bronco Sports during my time with this because whenever you're driving a car, you always end up seeing other ones. You're like, oh, there's another one, there's another one. None of them were as eye-catching or as interesting to look at as this. I loved the yellow. I still love the yellow. I don't know why I said past tense. I love the yellow color. It sticks out. It's vibrant. And it gives the car a personality where a lot of the other ones, the dark blue, the black, the white, they just look like run-of-the-mill SUVs. And I understand how those can sort of fall into obscurity or normality. This actually sticks out. It makes a statement, and almost everyone I talked to said, wow, that's an interesting color. The other thing I loved was everything I was able to do with it. It's easy to get in and out of. Like I mentioned, that cargo space was fantastic. Great features. B&O sound system was great, and I actually really thoroughly enjoyed driving it. The 2-liter turbo was good, and it was able to take me on many adventures. I took it into downtown Chicago for the Air and Water Show / a Cubs game, and it did great. Pictured here, it actually fit in parking spots, which I wasn't sure it was going to do. And I have to say, the Ford Bronco Sport cleans up well for itself. My friends in this photo absolutely loved the Ford Bronco Sport. I also took it out just yesterday with a bunch of my friends to go play with remote control cars, and we were able to fit all of our stuff in the back. We were all able to sit comfortably and enjoy our day with the Ford Bronco Sport. And of course, lastly, I did take it out to stargaze with my girlfriend on the edge of town and hopefully see a little bit of that Milky Way. This car is up for anything. It's excited for anything, and it wants to do what you want it to do. It has the ground clearance to go down a trail. It has the ground clearance to get over a bump or rut or somewhere like this, but also it's not overly huge. That's a huge selling point for me over the full-size Bronco. I've spent many days driving the full-size Bronco and I like it for what it is, but this shouldn't be compared to that. This is a different caliber of vehicle. This is a vehicle that you can live with every single day, drive to school, drive to work, drive in the rain, go get coffee, whatever it is. But there's an adventurous side, and that's what always messes people up. They're like, oh, it's not a real Bronco. It's not. It is not what the original Bronco was. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad car. I would honestly say it's one of the best, and so I actually drafted up some possible names that Ford could have used instead of Bronco to not throw people off, but sticking with the National Park theme that Ford seems to be on right now with the Big Bend edition, the Everglades edition, Yellowstone Yellow, things like that. So a couple I came up with would be the Ford Zion, I don't know, maybe, the Ford Yosemite, cool, or my personal favorite, the Ford Olympic, after Olympic National Park up in Washington, with maybe the Rocky Mountain package, which would be the bigger tires, things like that. Or if Ford wants to save money on a name that they already own in other markets, they should have called this the Ford Everest. Now overseas, they sell the Ford Everest as a more rugged SUV. Here it is. This should be called the Ford Everest because people see that Bronco badge and say, it's not a Bronco, it's a phony. And then they write off this whole car as if it's not something so spectacular and so fantastic. Buy the 2-liter turbo, get that because I do like that more than the 1.5. But this is one of the best and one of my favorite cars that I've had the privilege of driving for 7 days. And I am going to be very, very sad when it leaves my driveway. I wish people took you more seriously because you deserve it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Ford for sending me this vehicle. Like I said, they are sending me 2 more vehicles directly after this. Next week, I get an F-150 Tremor, and the week following, I get a Maverick Lariat. So I am so excited to start this new partnership with the Ford Motor Company. Being a Ford owner myself, I can guarantee you've never seen a clip like this in a Bronco Sport review. This is a 92-year difference in Ford 4-cylinder 4-door technology. This is my 1931 Ford Model A next to it, which I am always excited to show off. It is my pride and joy. But Ford's been awesome to work with. Huge thank you to G. Schmidt for facilitating the delivery and scheduling of this vehicle. And of course, the Midwestern Automotive Media Association for just being so awesome. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.